Hey guys, this is Dr. Saurabh, oral and maxillofacial resident. I am making this video for all the undergraduate students who face difficulties in their clinical postings while doing initial patients. I would like to share some of the tips and tricks about how to tackle your initial difficulties while doing the patient. So let's get familiar with the instrument.
Hello everyone. So we will be covering the forceps today. We'll be starting with the maxillary forceps. As you all can see, the first forceps today is the maxillary anterior forceps. You always start an introduction by saying it is made up of stainless steel material. It consists of three parts: the handle, as you can see, the hinge, and the working end or the beaks. Now, how you identify a maxillary anterior forceps is see the angulation with the hinge and the working end, and also no gaps in between the beaks. Now how you identify a maxillary anterior forceps is see the angulation, it's a straight angulation, and also see the gap between the beaks. There's absolutely no gaps between the beaks. Now I will show you all a demo on the skull. So a maxillary forceps you use in a palm up position. The first force you apply on a forceps is apical. You have to go as apical as possible to the CEJ. Then you have to take a firm grip. If it's a single rooted tooth, you can rotate it. Otherwise, you can have a buccal or a palatal motion. But the grip is very important, as you have to go as apical as possible, take a good grip of the CEJ, and then start with your movements. Moving on to the second forceps, which is the maxillary premolar forceps. The introduction remains the same for all the forceps. Now the difference between the maxillary anterior and the maxillary premolar forceps is the angulation. You can see a slight curve in the angulation. You can identify here also. And the other second major difference is the gaps between the beaks. Now to better understanding of this, I will show you all a comparison between the maxillary anteriors and the maxillary premolars. You can see the difference and the gap between the beaks. Also comparing the two angles, straight angle for the anteriors and a curved angle for the premolars. Now I will show you all a demo. Again, apical force first on the forceps, catch the CEJ and give a buccal palatal. If it's a single rooted tooth, you can have a rotationary force. This is a universal forceps. It's not paired instrument, it's a universal forceps. What is the meaning of a universal forceps is that you can use it in both the arches, that is in the quadrant 1 as well as the quadrant 2. It's known as a universal forceps. Further on in the video, I will show you that there are instruments which are paired instruments also. Like now the third instrument is the maxillary molar forceps. It is used and indicated for an intact molar. Now you can see the angulation first. Now this beak consists of two parts. The triangular part of the forceps engages into the buccal part of the quadrant. This goes into the palate. The rounded end goes into the palate. So this is a maxillary first quadrant for maxillary molar forceps. Now how do you know it is the identification always starts from a palm up position. Then you have to see the difference between the beaks. This is the triangular end of the beak which goes into the buccal part of the first quadrant. This you can see is the most circular end of the beak and it goes into the palate, engages into the palate. Now I'll show you all a demo on the skull. This is my first quadrant, this is my second quadrant. So this is my skull which is showing the first quadrant from this side and this is the second quadrant from the central incisor on this side. Palm up position, the buccal beak here goes into the buccal and the palatal goes in the palate as apical as possible. Now for the maxillary molars, the first and the most important force is always the apical and then is more buccal then palatal. So you have more buccal forces applied and then palatal, and if you want you can give a slight rotatory force or a figure of 8 if your adjacent tooth is missing. As I told you, this instrument is a paired instrument. So we have the second pair of it is for the second quadrant. Now the identification of this is always starting from the palm up position. This is the triangular beak which engages into the buccal end. This is the more circular beak which goes in the palatal. Now for you to identify the difference, I'm showing you both the forceps. See this, the buccal end of this forceps, the triangular end goes into the buccal part, the triangular end on this part goes to the buccal. So this becomes my maxillary first molar forceps, this becomes my maxillary second molar forceps, just on the difference of the triangular beaks on either side. So this is my maxillary second molar forceps. This is the first quadrant, as you all know, and this is the second quadrant. The 2-6, so we will engage it and start with the, so the beaks goes into the buccal. You can see the triangular beak going into the buccal mucosa, and this beak goes into the palate. So you hold it as apical as possible, and then you do the movements what I explained for the maxillary first molar. Now we will move on to the second set of paired instruments in the maxilla, which is the cow horn. Why is this forceps called a cow horn forceps? As in because it resembles the beaks of a cow's horn, as you can see it. Yeah. So now there are two indications of this forceps. Firstly, when the crown structure is not there and the root structure is intact. The second indication is that when the furcation is intact, you use the cow horn forceps. Now how you identify it is that this end of the beak goes into the buccal, and this, where you can see the bifid, where you can see the bifid, it goes into the palate. So this goes into the buccal, this goes into the palate. Now I will show you all on the skull. This is the maxillary first quadrant forceps, as this beak will engage into the buccal, how I'm showing you all, and this beak, the bifid beak, engages into the palate. As I told you, this is the paired instrument which will have the second quadrant size. So the second quadrant will have the buccal beak on this side and the palatal, the bifid beak on this side. Showing all a demo on the skull. This buccal beak engages here and the palatal beak engages on the palate. Now I will show you all a comparison like what I did for my previous instruments. First quadrant forceps, buccal beak engages into the buccal. Second quadrant, the buccal beak engages into the buccal on this side. So the difference is very clear between the first quadrant and the second quadrant. Please do not make a mistake. Moving on to another universal forceps. A universal forceps means you can use this forceps in both the quadrants of the maxilla. This is called as the bayonet. Bayonet forceps. Bayonet forceps is used solely for root pieces. Any root piece you use a bayonet. See the angulation of the beaks? It has two curves. It's more useful in taking out the root pieces which are engaged into the socket. Now just to give you a lineup of how you use the instruments is, first if you have an intact 1/6 coming into your clinic, you start with the maxillary forceps. Again I will revise to you. This triangular beak goes into the buccal, the circular end goes into the palatal. So this is the first quadrant, I'm trying no, and I break the crown. So as I told you, you break the crown, you move on to the second set of instrument, which is the cow horn. The indication which I will revise to you again is when the crown structure is broken and the root is intact and also the furcation is intact. So I use the first quadrant cow horn. So I engage the beaks here into the buccal. This beak goes into the buccal, this goes into the palatal. I'm trying, and I'm not successful, and I take out whatever crown structure is present, whatever is left, and I'm unable to take out the roots. So I use this forceps and I break the furcation, but I'm unable to take out the whole tooth. So I will move on to my third set of instrument, which is the bayonet, which I just told you it's used for root pieces. So I put this forceps into the socket where my root is, engage it into the root completely, move it. You can give any motion, as I told you, if it's single rooted, you can give a rotatory force or a buccal or a palatal and take it out. So this, I told you, is a clear indication of how you will use your maxillary molar forceps. You start in a particular sequence as I just explained it to you before. Now the last set of the maxillary instruments is the maxillary third molar instrument. It's very easy to identify it because of the angulation which has been provided to this instrument. You can see it clearly. It's indicated and angulated in 3 different ways, as the maxillary third molar is the most difficult area because of less accessibility. So you have a pretty decent view of this. It's also a universal forceps, which you can use it in 1/8 and 2/8 as well. So you engage it in this particular fashion and you give buccal motion. More buccal in this because the maxillary molars are buccally erupted mostly. So you give buccal motions and your tooth will be out. So this completes the maxillary forceps for me. So now we will move on to the second part of the video, which is the mandibular forceps. You can see the clear evident that the difference between the mandibular and the maxillary forceps is the angulation. The angulation is perpendicular or 90 degrees. As you can see the mandibles here, and you can use the forceps in this particular fashion. Now this is the first forceps. I will revise again the introduction. Is the forceps is made up of 3 parts or 3 constituents of it: the handle, the hinge and the working end or the beaks. It's made up of stainless steel material. So this is the mandibular anterior forceps. As you all can see, there's no gaps between the beaks, and see the angulation is pretty straight. Now the most important thing in the mandibular forceps is the position. So your position should be 3 inches below the elbow, and only for the 4th quadrant of the mandible you should be behind the patient at an 11 o'clock position. For the rest of the 3 quadrants, that is 1, 2 and 3 quadrants, you should be ahead 8 o'clock or a 6 o'clock position. For more detailed description about the positions of the operator position and the patient position, we have explained it in our previous videos. Now this is the mandibular anterior forceps. As you all can see, no gaps between the beaks, and the angulation is also pretty straight. For the 4th quadrant, you should be behind at 11 o'clock position. You should hold it like this and always have a sling grasp position of the mandible. One finger should be at the inferior border always to prevent the fracture. The other positions, or the other 2 fingers, one should be in the lingual side and the other should be in the buccal, and then you can apply your forces. So you can see the first forces as apical as possible, and then you can use only rotational forces for this, as it's single rooted for the anteriors. So I hope this is pretty clear to you all. Moving on to the second mandibular forceps is the mandibular premolar forceps. As you can see, the angulation like this, a little curve for the beaks, and also there's slight gaps in between the beaks. You can observe the difference between the anteriors and the premolars. Now I will give you a demo. Again, you use a sling grasp, one finger near the inferior border of the mandible to prevent any fracture, and just a rotational force and for the premolar forceps. So this is the mandibular premolar forceps. Moving on to the third instrument. Before moving on to the instruments, there are no paired instruments in the maxilla, in the mandible, sorry. It's only a universal forceps which can be used in both the quadrants. Moving on to the third mandibular forceps is the mandibular molar forceps. Now you can see the difference here. It has both the triangular ends on both the parts. So you can see the difference between the forceps, the beaks. One goes into the buccal, the triangular head, and the second triangular head goes into the lingual. So one is used for the buccal root, one is used for the lingual root. I will show you all a demo. Again, the grasp is very important, the sling grasp. Here you can have a buccal and a lingual motion. Moving on to the last forceps in the mandibular is the mandibular cow horn. Why is it called a cow horn? As you can clearly see, this resembles the cow's horn. The indication again for this is where the crown structure is lost and the furcation is intact. Now again, I will show you all a demo. Take a good grip as apical as possible. Use the finger for the inferior border and buccal and lingual motions for it. It's a video, just a short reminder and a short footnote. For any root pieces in the mandibular, you can use the mandibular anterior forceps, as I've showed you in the, earlier in the video. And all the forceps in the mandibular are in the palm down position. For the maxilla it was palm up, for the mandible it's palm down. So this brings us to the end of this video. I would like to conclude by saying that if you have any queries on any forceps or anything related to the forceps in the maxilla and the mandibular, please comment below. I hope you guys have understood a lot from this video. It was quite informative, and thank you guys for watching it, and stay tuned for further.
you.